Welcome back, everyone. Rimfire Friday. Today we have a very special guest. I know that I say this every show we record. I'm a bit of a fanboy of this guy. I'm so glad to be able to welcome 22 Lima Romeo to the show. Hey, Jeramie, how are you?
I'm good, Dom. Thanks for having me on. I'm honored to be on your show today.
You are more than welcome. I've been watching you with interest. I've sought your content out in trying to develop my own processes, and oh God, you have been an unbelievable help to me in my shooting. So thank you so much for that.
Thanks for tuning into the channel, and that was really the goal all along, was to help elevate people's games all over the world. I like to have fierce competition at my local clubs, and teaching everybody the tricks that I've learned over the years was just felt like the right thing to do. So if you guys have found the content useful, that was the goal.
Oh yeah, it's been unreal. And because we both shoot the same scope, I can get a little bit of data knowledge. Although I've gone to a spur mount, so I'm now my offset is higher than yours, so our data's it won't match anymore.
Mhm.
But anyway, yeah, it's very interesting. All right, so can you quickly tell us who you are and where you're from?
Yeah. So my name is Jeremy Walker. I am from Greeley, Colorado, which is on the front range of the Rocky Mountains in the state of Colorado, United States. Being on these plains, we get some very vicious winds that are very unpredictable. So something that has helped me in this game was learning how to shoot in wind. At the national championship, we didn't have a lot of wind, and it really messed up my mental game because I'm used to holding, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 tenths a mil point two. That's just natural for me. Yeah. And when we had some wind kick up at nationals, that's when I felt most comfortable and most confident.
That's unreal. I don't get to shoot in much wind either. What shooting disciplines have you done in the past?
So I have competed only in centerfire precision rifle and rimfire precision rifle. I've never shot any other disciplines. I have dabbled a little bit in defensive pistol, shooting a Canik 9 millimeter. But that's not really my bag. I prefer the precision aspect of things. I prefer moving fast and shooting slow.
Yeah, cool. What got you into NRL 22?
So when we first moved to Colorado, I had a desire to learn how to hunt in the Rocky Mountains. And in the Rocky Mountains, oftentimes the elk out here, which they're majestic and they're massive creatures, but they're smart and they know how to keep their distance from human beings. So I knew that in order to successfully take an elk in the Rocky Mountains, I was going to need to develop some marksmanship fundamentals. So I sought out um, a way to start developing those skills, that skill set. And I knew that rimfire was going to be the cheapest method of developing that skill set because the ammunition is readily available, or was at the time, and the fundamentals were going to transfer directly over from rimfire to centerfire. What I read was that the 22 rimfire often behaves much like a 308 at a third the distance. So the drops are similar. So I started diving deep into learning how to be a precision marksman. And I found Jonathan O'Cab on YouTube and Pete Milan from South Africa on impact shooting. And I started watching those guys' content, and they taught me a ton. And I found out about NRL 22, and then I started searching on the internet, and I found out that there was a club local to me. From where I lived at the time, it was only 15 minutes from my house. So I stopped by that club. I bought a CZ 455 and put it in a Boyd's At-One stock, and did a Yo Dave trigger job on it. And I had it at the gunsmith, having the action barreled and or pillared and bedded. And I ordered a little barrel for it. So I was kind of going right down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
But I stopped by the local club and just wanted to visit with the guys and see what it was all about. And it was the community that sucked me into the sport. It was the people. And I went and shot my first match and I placed third open and I was 100% hooked.
You were gone.
I was gone. That was the end of it.
Oh, what a journey. Um, what started your journey into doing the stage introductions for everyone?
That's a really good question. So I like to teach myself things, and I found out that I had a little bit of a natural gift for this kind of discipline. Um, I was watching Jonathan O'Cab's videos, and that dude is a wealth of knowledge, and he offers such insightful content from a match director's perspective. But what I found when looking for other content that was similar to O'Cab's is that there wasn't a lot. And I was really looking forward to OCAB's video release every month because I was doing the same thing that you do. I was watching content and seeing how more experienced shooters were planning on attacking the stages. And I found when I was watching his content that I was skipping through, I was fast forwarding through a lot of his content. And what I really only wanted to see was just how he was going to attack the stage. And I knew that if I was doing that, that other people were probably doing that too. And at that time, I was pretty serious about uh, increasing my game and upping my competition level within the league. And I was already recording myself at the behest of a good friend of mine, a mentor, who really helped develop me as a shooter. He said, you know, go ahead and record yourself and then go home and watch the recordings. And you'll notice little mistakes that you make in your position building or in your fundamentals. And that'll help you to improve your game on your own. And I did that. And I was filming, you know, every stage. And it kind of hit me one day. I was like, why don't I just combine all of this and make some short, sweet content that's easy to digest? And that's where it all started.
Well, I'm glad I did. I'm glad it did. I watched Jonathan as well for the same reasons. And yeah, shout out to him. He's done a marvelous job helping people too.
He does, and he's very thorough. He's very methodical, and he really does think thoroughly about how to approach the stages. And he's got a good mind for creating content that is going to be useful for multiple people.
Yeah.
I know match directors are probably, you know, really look forward to his content because he's approaching his scenarios as a match director because that's what he is. I'm only assistant match director. So I'm usually looking at things through the lens of just a competitor. And I wanted to keep the videos short and sweet so that people didn't need to skip. All they needed to do was just watch that 15 minutes and they knew exactly how I was going to do things.
Yeah, yeah, I get you. I've heard you have a big family. Do they all shoot?
So we have 5 children, ranging from 17 to 6. And the the 2 older girls, they're both fierce competitors,
Yeah.
very good, very talented with their rifles. And then I have my third daughter. So the order was daughter, 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 son, another daughter.
Yeah.
So the third daughter, Jocelyn, she has absolutely no interest in shooting.
Yeah.
It's just not her thing, and we respect that. We drag her to the range because she's not old enough to stay home just yet by herself, but she's just not have any interest in it. So Bennett, my son, he is just competing for his first year now. So we're getting him spun up. We've got a Ruger Precision with a Burris RT15 on it, and he just got upgraded to an RT25 because big sister, that rifle right back there, that just got the brand new Element Theos put on top of it. She picked that up at a match down in Utah where she took first place young gun. So
Well done.
she got a brand new scope. So Bennett gets an upgrade. And then the little pistol, Josephine, she is just all over the place right now, and she shoots all right, but she wants to go play in the dirt and chase bugs and do the things that little kids do. So maybe one day she'll take up the torch and she'll compete too. But for right now, just 3 of the 5 compete.
Huge respect to you. That must be a big juggling competition.
Oh, it is tough. That's about the only word I can use to describe it. It is tough. The lucky part about all of this is that the girls are finally at a point, the big girls are finally at a point in their competition careers that they know how to run their kestrels, they know how to, set everything up for themselves. They're looking at their turrets, they're checking their parallax, they're loading their magazines. I don't have to remind them about any of that stuff anymore. Bennett only being 10, he still needs a little bit of coaching. So I spend a lot of time when we're at a match right there with him on the prop, um, telling him what target he needs to be on, telling him what his holds need to be. And he's getting it, but when they're that young, they do need a lot of help. So
Yeah,
it is a bit of a juggle. I mean, luckily the big girls are there to help, but the little ones now, when you have the other two, those two can get along like best friends, or
yeah,
they can get along like worst enemies. So luckily my wife is really good at multitasking. So she often has to switch between being competitor and being mom, being competitor and being mom.
yeah. Right. My eldest girl's 26, so it's years since I have to do any of that.
And you only have the one?
Two girls.
Two girls.
I
They're
also,
so sweet when they're young, and then they turn into trouble.
yeah, they do. Do you travel away much and compete, or is it more a home club thing for you?
So we do travel. I've got a kind of a window that I'll allot for traveling to a match. I try to keep my travel to an 8 hour drive,
Yeah.
unless it's the national championship. So if we have an opportunity to shoot a match within 8 hours of us, typically we're going to try to make that match. There's been a couple that we missed out on just because work and life things that come up, but 8 hours we're willing to travel and go shoot X matches. I mean, I've even shot an X match with a broken ankle.
Really?
Yeah, we had already signed up. I had already paid match fees. We had already booked the hotel. I wasn't gonna just skip the match. I was like, well, I'll do what I can and I'll place where I placed.
And how'd you go?
I placed 14th overall.
Yeah, righto. Cool.
Yep.
Um, Let everyone know what your rifle is, what's your rig, what's your barrel, what's your stock, what's your scope.
Okay. Yeah. So I shoot a Voodoo 360, and it has an Ace barrel from Voodoo. It's a 22-inch MTU taper. I have it in a Foundation Centurion stock. And I've been using the exact same bipod that I started with for 4 years now. I use a Harris SBRN bipod with the Really Right Stuff ARCA adapter. I have a ARCA. The ARCA rail is weighted and it's made by Precision 360 Precision out of Pennsylvania. And I shoot with the Burris XTR Pro mounted in Hawkins heavy tactical rings with the bubble level and the diving board. I have a Trigger Tech Diamond and a flat line ops level on the side, on the left side of the rifle.
What weight is your gun?
Oh, it is a beast. So inside the Centurion, inside the Foundation stocks, there's like a honeycomb pattern in the stock. And I fit 22 brass weights inside that stock. So it weighs in at about 23 pounds. That's without the bipod.
Man, that's heavy.
It is, and I throw it around like it's nothing. I do know, but I share a rifle with Bevan, because we have 5 kids, so we don't have loads of disposable income. We got some, but not loads of it. So we haven't built her own rifle yet. But she does struggle with that on a 2 day match. It does start to take its toll on her.
You don't see that in the videos. I saw a little bit of her shooting the other day. I didn't realize that gun was 23 pound. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and people think that's a lot of weight. People pick my gun up. It's only 21 pound, but they're lovely to shoot those big heavy guns.
They really are. They just settle down so nicely into the bag, and once you get that thing settled into a schmedium or a weed bad fortune cookie, they really do just stop moving. And as long as you've got the foresight to kind of remove yourself from that stock, they really do get rock solid. And make shooting relatively easy.
You can see it on your videos and your scope cam that you're solid a lot of the time.
It's now there's some tricks that have come along the way that have made that possible. I didn't always used to be as steady, and I can say with absolute certainty that the Voodoo, weighing as much as it did, is significantly more stable than the Bagara B14 that I used to compete with. The Bagara is a fantastic rifle. Don't get me wrong. For out of the box gun, it's hard to beat that thing. It just the barrels are fantastic, and they shoot really good right out of the box. You don't really have to do much to them. But they don't quite weigh what I wanted it to weigh, and they're a little stock heavy, a little butt heavy, and that makes balancing that thing really challenging because you often find yourself running that magazine into a barricade, trying to get it to stabilize and balance, and it just won't do it.
Hmm. What ammo does your gun like the best?
So my gun likes Lapua products, SK products the best. I've got a lot of Cinerex right now that it just literally prints one hole. I actually the last time I went out and just checked things,
Lovely.
that's 5 shots at 50 yards.
Yeah, lovely.
0.136 inches. Best group at 100 I've had is just under a half of an inch. It was like a 0.485. So the gun's a hammer. But it can only do its limitation is me. I bet you the gun could probably shoot tighter groups if I could improve my own skill set. But it likes Lapua products. It likes SK. It will shoot just about anything though pretty well. We've run some Ely through it and it shoots it pretty good. We've even shot some some CCI standard velocity. Now that stuff is a good place to start, but it's not a good place to stay. But it even shoots that pretty well.
Yeah, yeah, you'll find the legs fall off it pretty quick past 50.
They really just open up past 50. I mean, if you can get that stuff to print a 2-inch group at 100 yards out of anybody's rifle, I think you're doing pretty well.
I'll jump ahead one question. How's the availability of ammo in your country?
So that's a good question. It is still very hit and miss. Ammunition goes quickly, and I think part of that is because the league, this precision rimfire discipline is really growing right now, and the word's kind of out about the good ammunition and where to find it. So usually when it comes in stock, it sells out pretty quickly. Luckily, we live near Mile High Shooting Supply. They're just down in Frederick, which is 40 minutes from us, and they often have all of your top brands in stock. They've got Lapua Cinerex, they've got Midas, they've even had some Exact on occasions. They've got SK Red and SK Yellow. They've got Polar Biathlon. A couple years ago, I stocked up on Polar Biathlon, and that stuff it's different. The projectile's got a different shape, and it doesn't have any lubrication, so it flies a little different and it shoots a little hot. But we shoot matches here in the wintertime, and we've started a match when the temperature was -4.
Yeah.
So having that kind of specialized ammunition for this competition, it really does kind of give you an edge over everybody else when you're shooting the right stuff for the conditions.
I've seen some of your videos in the snow. I'm in North Queensland, so I think in grade 7 we went to a place called Threadbow, and I experienced snow once in grade 7.
Yeah, it's not uncommon for us to get snow at the very beginning of summer. So we can have snow in May. My oldest daughter's birthday is middle of May, and we've had 1.5 feet of snow on her birthday.
Really?
I couldn't even get out of my driveway. Like, I just had to call into work and be like, guys, I'm not going to make it. I can't drive out of the driveway. I've got a lot of shoveling I need to do for the next few hours.
That's unreal, eh? What is your training regime? And did that vary in the lead up to the Nationals?
So in years previous, I did increase my training as nationals approached. Um, at our range at NCRGC, we are limited to 200 yards on the rifle range. Oftentimes at a national championship, you're usually shooting beyond 200 yards. So I've got another place that I go out to that's a national grasslands, and we get some pretty hellacious winds out there. So I've built a lot of props that we use for NRL 22, so that I have a kind of a set of my own, so I can go and practice out there. So I'll load up the truck full of props and I'll take it out to Pawnee National Grasslands and I'll set up stages and run them out there. And I can get 400 or 500 yards out there pretty easily. But this year was a little different. This year, I really wanted to focus more on community than my own personal placement within the league. Our local club, I love shooting at our local club, and we've got a lot of good competitors out there. So shooting with those guys is always fun, and it pushes me to not drop shots because at our local club, if you drop, one or two, there's a possibility you drop that podium spot. Um, but this year, it just didn't feel right to focus on me. It felt right to focus on the kids and the wife and really getting them kind of dialed up. So I didn't really practice a whole lot this year besides shooting matches. Usually the only practice that I get is to go out and film the course of fire. And then a couple weeks later, we're shooting a match. So that's about the end of my practice. Now, the girls and the misses, they do a lot more practicing. The difficult thing about being a girl dad and having your daughters and your wife competing alongside of you is that you want, as a dad, for them to do their best, and you have a vested interest in their performance in the sport, and you kind of have to be a coach. However, you're a girl dad. You know that oftentimes just the slightest little bit of criticism can trigger waterworks. So it has been interesting, and it's been very, very hard for me as a dad to find the right way to say things so that I don't upset one of the girls or upset the wife, and they're able to take that feedback and actually do something with it.
Yeah, yeah, I totally get that. It's even hard for me if I take a new shooter along to shoot. It's even hard for me to concentrate on my game and keep an eye on them to help them. So I totally understand what you're saying.
Yep. I've reached a point where I've cleaned two courses of fire during a match, and I typically only drop a shot or two or three at our local club matches. So I'm not having to really practice to keep my level of competition up. So instead of focusing on me, I feel that my energy is best spent on other club shooters and the kids and the misses.
That's nice. That's really nice. So that leads me into my next question. The Nationals. Give us a rundown on how your Nationals went. You kind of have already.
Yeah, so Nationals was an epic match, and I knew it would be. Last year, after we wrapped up in North Carolina was, for lack of a better word, was a bit of a disappointment, and that was the kids' first national event, and it was rough. It was a very hot, very sticky, and we live in the Rocky Mountains. We don't get that kind of humidity and that kind of heat up here. So nobody was really prepared for it, and we hadn't acclimated to it. We just kind of showed up, and it was miserable. We found out at the end of that match that Justin and Ruth were going to be hosting the Nationals the next year. I remember telling Bevan as soon as we found out, I said, we are definitely, no matter what, we are going to that Nationals because it is going to be epic. It is going to be the best Nationals that the club or that the league has to offer. So we definitely need to go check that out. Um, it was rough on us because in the lead up to leaving, we homeschool, and Bevan took all the kids to the library to pick out some stuff for the trip. And school had just let out. And so all the kids picked up a germ at the library, and
Oh,
that ransacked them. They
oh,
were all sick leading up to the beginning of the trip. We thought sitting in the car for a couple of days would help, get them feeling better. It didn't. Both days, Genevieve and Juliet were competing with fevers. Juliet had a bit of asthma while we were there. The humidity of Wisconsin kind of got to her. She came off of a stage and she was gasping for air, and she didn't feel like she could get a lung full of oxygen. So we gave her an albuterol inhaler, and 45 minutes later, she was right as rain. I mean, still not feeling great, but she could breathe. Bevan wasn't feeling great, but we were there, and I gave everybody the option. We finished up day one, and we got back to the Airbnb that night, and I told them, guys, if you don't want to finish this match, I completely respect that, and I'm not going to force you to shoot it. Like, we were here, we can show up at the match the next day and just sit back and observe, or we can help RO if necessary, but you guys don't have to finish. And all three of them were like, well, we're here, why wouldn't we go shoot? And I was like, all right, then let's go shoot. They really picked it up on day two. Day one, I shot pretty good. Mitch definitely was giving me a run for my money. I mean, I felt like Mitch and I were neck and neck through
Really?
day one. And then day two, with how everybody was doing on day one, I was really worried as a dad. I was really worried about the kids, and I was really worried about Bevan. So my focus was not on shooting my best match. It was just on making sure that we got the kids through it, we got Bevan through it, and then our other little ones that were running around the range were not getting in any trouble or causing any havoc. But they were great. It was a fantastic match. It was so well run. Let me tell you about those ROs, Dom. Absolute and total professionalism. Those guys were second to none. They conducted themselves like they had been trained to do that their whole life. They set timers. They pushed us through the stage. They needed us to be ready. Everything was run the same way with all the competitors. They were all friendly but firm. And in order to conduct a match of that size, you need ROs like that. And those guys absolutely hit the nail on the head.
That's so cool. That came across in the videos too. Exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, those guys were top tier. They kept us going, and everybody finished on time. At the end of day one, kind of everybody was wrapping up at the same time because there was such strict time management. And I've been at matches where I'll use my first Big S match, which was in Cameo, Colorado. It was just outside of Grand Junction. Beautiful venue. If you ever get to come to the States and visit Cameo, the shooting complex, that place will take your breath away. But we didn't finish that match until 7:30 at night, and we started at 9 a.m. and it was just 12 stages. So if you don't have that kind of discipline in your ROs, matches can really start to lag and fall behind.
I could imagine. We have some exciting things happening in my local club. Hopefully this year I'll get to run more matches. So that's a battle that I'll have to face as well.
ROs, they're hard to come by, especially experienced ones. And I've heard that if you're a good MD and you take good care of your ROs, that those guys will they'll make your match. They will absolutely make your match. And after witnessing what we witnessed at the Nationals this year, I truly believe that is the ticket to running a great match, is having great ROs.
Yeah, I agree. You can't do it without them.
No, you really can't. Those guys were fantastic. And Ruth and Justin did such a good job. Everything was so detail oriented and thought out. I mean, the way the stages were run, the only critique that I would have for their match is one target. So we had a stage called Midwest Meteorology, and it was 11 different positions, and you had to break 10 shots from 11 different holes in this wall, and you were blocked off on both sides like a U-shaped barricade, and there was 11 holes. They were small holes to get that rifle in. but you could barely get your shoulder pressed up against that and run your bolt. I mean, it was confined space, and you couldn't shoot the left side, strong side. You had to go support. And that was the point. It didn't specifically say in the rule or in the stage description that you had to go support side, but there's no way you're shooting that strong side. So there was two targets at range. One of them was appropriately sized, and the other one was not. The other one was not appropriately sized. I remember looking at that thing through my optic, and I was like, "There's no way. There's no way anybody hits that." Like, if I get a 70, if I can get all 10 shots off and take the 7 points per impact, to me that's good enough because I'm going to miss more than 3 times trying to hit that little target. And I looked back at the scores for that stage, and nobody cleaned it.
Really?
Nobody got a perfect score on that. So when the match was over, I went and talked with Justin. I was like, dude, you ran a fantastic match. I only have one complaint, and it was just one target.
If he only got one complaint for the whole match, he would have been happy.
Yeah, so that was something that Tyler said during the awards was that he's never been to a match where the match directors were able to like sit down and have a picnic lunch.
Yeah.
And the reason why they were able to do that is because everything was running so stinking well. And hats off to Justin and Ruth because their methodical planning and forethought about the possible things that could go wrong and circumventing that by, just preparedness, that was unmatched. They really did think of things from every angle, and they did a fantastic job setting that place up for a match of that size.
Yeah, it ain't their first rodeo either.
No, not at all. I've heard nothing but good things about their matches, but they're outside of that 8 hour circle that I'm willing to
Yeah.
travel.
Right.
So we've never gone up to one.
Yeah, righto. All right. That's the end of my questions for you that I had. We're 35 minutes in. Um, look,
Good timing.
yeah, it is. It's good timing. Um, thank you so much for being part of this Australian push that we're currently doing for NRL 22. I'm so glad you could be part of it. I feel really proud that you're here, and we've sort of got together to combine this little show. I think this will be very well received.
I think so too. And I want to say hats off to the Australian shooting team. Those guys were top tier. They were a joy to shoot with. I enjoyed every minute of it. Every one of them was supportive. I've never been in a squad where everybody just immediately felt good around each other. This is the first time, and it felt fantastic. I would love to shoot with those guys again in another match one day.
Well, maybe you will.
I hope to. I was invited. I was told about some things that are coming up where I might actually have to come down under and shoot a match.
Yeah, you may do. We may shoot together one day.
I would really like that, Dom. That would be amazing.
Me too. Okay, Jeremy, thank you so much. Best of luck with everything that you have moving forward, and hopefully one day we will shoot together.
Thanks, buddy. Tune into that July course fire. It's going to be coming up on I think Thursday.
Well, don't you worry, I will.
Thanks, buddy.
Okay, mate. Thank you.